On behalf of the trustees of the Durham Public Library, welcome to the rededication of the Milne Swan sculpture. Thank you all for coming tonight to honor Lorus and Margery Milne, two of Durham's most famous citizens. One of my fellow board members referred to the glitterati of Durham, and Margery and Lorus are certainly charter members, both for their professional achievements and for their extraordinary generosity. The library board and staff feel a special sense of gratitude to the Milnes, as their very substantial bequest to the library was key in bringing about this beautiful building. Now I'd like to introduce Diana Carroll, who was a close friend of Margery and Lorus Milne. She has served on the town council, been a strong supporter of the library, and just recently gave a wonderful program on the Milnes at the library, which I attended, and is the basis for my knowledge of the Milnes since I moved to Canton after their deaths. It was well-researched and full of humor and affection. She's the perfect person to have organized this event. Thank you, Diana.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. It's good to be here. It's good to see everyone here, and welcome to everyone. And yes, my family and I have known the Milnes for a long time. I calculated it today, and was 32 years. So we knew them quite a long time, but I do know there are a couple people in the audience this evening who knew them even more than 32 years. So that's a long time. We knew them 32 years, but I wanted to say that my husband, John, his relationship with the Milnes went back even further. When he was in high school, he read their books, was fascinated by their books. And so when we came to Durham, he said, maybe someday we will be lucky enough to meet Lorus and Margery Milne. And that happened, and the rest is history, as they say. Today, we're bringing a conclusion to a project that began in 2013. At that time, the sculpture of Margery and Lorus was completed and dedicated. And then it dawned on some of us on the sculpture committee that although we knew the Milnes, not all the residents in Durham knew the Milnes. And of course, there were future residents who would be coming to Durham, and they wouldn't know who they were either. Well, Margery and Lorus, hello. That's Margery. So it was at that time in 2013 that we realized we really needed some information about the Milnes, but we also wanted some information about who designed the sculpture and who made it. So that has been done, and we'll see the fruits of that in just a few minutes. So I just want to say that the Milnes are going to be remembered for many things. They're going to be remembered for the 55 books that they wrote, the many journal and magazine articles that they authored. They're going to be remembered for the films they made, their photography, their connection to the Durham Swans, and the book reviews they wrote, including their New York Times book review of Rachel Carson's Silent Spring. But what I'm really hoping for is that we will remember them for what made all those accomplishments possible. And what made those accomplishments possible? Well, their curiosity. They weren't curious only as children and teenagers and maybe when they were in college. Their curiosity lasted their whole life long, decade after decade. And that's one of the ways they were able to accomplish what they did. Also, they had the ability to keenly and patiently observe nature. And if you lived on Faculty Road or Garden Lane, you could see them every morning. And I mean each and every morning, walking down to the mill pond, observing, looking, what was new, what was different, what was the same. And then they recorded it. So they spent their time very, very patiently looking at nature and seeing what they saw. Also, they had a passion to share with others the knowledge that they amassed about nature. And so aren't we lucky to be the recipients of all that they have shared? It was their respect and love of our world and all its life-giving processes that drove them, motivated their work, and directed their lives. A lot to be thankful for. And now we'll have the unveiling of the stones. And we're very lucky to have Cleo with us this evening, who's going to unveil them, and Richard Lord, who is a longtime friend of the Milnes, who is going to read the engraving.
Hi. All righty. Well, this stone here says Margery and Lorus J. Milne, naturalists, authors, UNH professors, Durham residents, library benefactors. And the other one? The sculptor is Walter Liff, Stealing Nature, Newcastle, New Hampshire. The design is by Rhonnda Little. So thank you very much.
So it's complete. It's great. But this is also a time of thank yous. So I'd like to thank several people. First of all, and foremost, Todd Selig. Todd, from the very, very beginning, believed in this project, he encouraged it, he supported it, and the first time that Rhonda and I walked into his office to talk about it, he was 100% behind it. Thank you, Todd. That means a lot. Many thanks go out to Mike Lynch. Mike made every detail work. And I assure you that there were more details than is readily apparent. When everything works as well as it did, you know a lot of work went in and behind it. So thanks to Mike and to his public works crew's skills and their commitment. And because of that, we have this completed project. Thank you, Mike. Here at the library, Rose Bibris, Lisa Kleinman, and Jess Ross. Would you raise your hands and, okay. There, okay. They have been enthusiastic supporters of this project and the Milne legacy. And I'd also like to thank Nancy Miner, who was on the committee. A special thanks goes to those residents who donated, hi Marjorie, those residents who donated to the fund that made possible the Milne sculpture and now the engraving on the granite stones. A special thank you to Exeter Monument Works for their fine work in engraving these stones. And now for two very important people. Rhonnda Little, who unfortunately could not be here this evening, began this tribute to the Milnes. One day I received a phone call from Rhonda. She called to say that she believed that the Milnes should be commemorated here in Durham, and she had an idea. The next day she was at my house with a drawing of this sculpture, and she also recommended a sculptor who was Walter Liff from Newcastle. And Walter is the sculptor who did make this wonderful, wonderful sculpture that we have. And let me just say that Walter so competently transferred Rhonda's drawing of the Milnes into metal, into this sculpture. And we have been admiring this for 5 years, and it's going to be here for a long, long time. Walter, would you raise your hand so everybody can recognize you? And his wife, Maggie, who answers the phone and whatever I have to kind of relate, brings that and just carries things forward. So there are many thank yous because there are many people who made this project come to what it is. It's a wonderful tribute to the Milnes, and we have much to be proud of as a community, I do believe. And to kind of sum things up, Jonae Carpenter, who has been a good friend of the Milnes, especially Margery, wrote a poem that she read at Margery's memorial service in 2007. And she was asked if she would please read the poem again this evening. So we'll bring the microphone over to her so she can read her poem.
Actually, it's 2006. Okay? All right. Okay, well, this is a sonnet. For people who don't know about poetry, it has 4 lines, space, 4 more lines, space, four more lines, and then it has a couplet at the end, which is 2 lines. Okay. What do you want me to do? Want me to hold it? So I call this a sonnet for Margery. Farewell, devoted daughter of the earth, enthusiastic teacher, writer, friend, impassioned herald of our planet's worth, to warn us all our wasteful ways to mend. Your worldwide travels with beloved spouse to deserts, meadows, woodlands, mountains, brooks, researching plant and insect, bird and mouse, to share experience in all your books. Your ardent love of life prolonged your stay, despite your body's slowly ebbing tide, that you might savor life just one more day, with home and friends and memories abide. And now the couplet. On wings of swan, you've reached another shore with undiscovered life forms to explore.
Thank you, Jonae. That's very special. And Jonae's poem has been framed, and it's in the children's section of the library. And it's placed in a position that you can look out the window and see the sculpture of the Milnes. So it's there. So before we end this evening, if anybody would like to say something, add something. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's very kind. I appreciate that. Thank you. Anyone else? Well, a tidbit that I'll just add, there's only one person that I know of here in the audience who actually took a course from Margery, and that was Lisa Kleinman, who took a writing for children.
I did. I met somebody else on the way down.
Oh.
You want to say something? She took a class. I took a microbiology course at UVM.
Oh, she took a microbiology course at UVM with Margery. Okay. Okay. Well, thank you so much. Oh, Todd. Please.
So I hadn't been planning to say anything, but as I was listening, a few things came to my mind. And one is it's easy to come to a finished product like this and say, wow, isn't that beautiful? And you thank the people involved. But there was so much that went into this project. And in fact, the time frame for the project didn't begin in 2013. It began about 2 years before that, when Diana and Rhonda came to talk with me about doing something in honor of the Milnes. And at that time, we were thinking of what might we do? And we were thinking of doing something at the Mill Pond, actually, at the park at the Mill Pond. And so Rhonda crafted a sketch, which we liked. And we talked with Mike Lynch, and we went to the Mill Pond, and we thought who we might reach out to. And we connected with Walter Liff, and we took a trip out to Newcastle and spent a lovely afternoon looking at all of the statuary that you've done. And for those who've been to the Newcastle Park in Newcastle, there's a beautiful silhouette of a painter with an ever-changing landscape in back, because it's open and you look out on the bay, and as the bay, the ocean changes, the image changes. And so we talked about what type of material to use, how we might do this, and we were very excited about it. But sometimes we have a great idea, but the timing just isn't right, or the place isn't right. And we talked with members of the council and people in the community, and there just was not a lot of interest to do something at the Mill Pond in terms of statuary like this. And so we put the idea away for a couple of years. And then we were able to find this site for a beautiful new library at the DeMombros house. And plans got underway, and Diana and I and Mike Lynch started thinking, where could we put this statue idea we had come up with? And it evolved, and eventually this was the location. So it just sort of goes to show, if you have an idea, maybe the original idea isn't the end result, but it plants a seed, which if you pursue, you can really arrive at a great thing. And also, I think we looked at a number of statues that Mr. Liff had done in the Seacoast. We did a field trip, and that helped us choose the material, the color, the thickness of the metal. We had to take into consideration that we're in a university town, and we needed something very durable. That was very important. And so we came up with this. And then even the location, our committee spent a lot of time walking around the library site, what was under construction at the time, trying to figure out where to put it. And we thought this was a great location, and it would help create a draw to the natural environment behind the property to allow for, as you look around, there are these wonderful panels of storybooks, and this is just what we were hoping to create, this lovely natural setting where people could learn and be inspired by the new material we put out, but also by the Milnes and all the great things that they did for Durham. And so thank you, Diana. Thank you, everyone. Mike Lynch, Mr. Liff, Rhonda, and company. Thank you all. So a great event. Oh, so Mike Lynch, we have a question. Were these rocks here originally, or did we move them here?
We moved them. We moved them.
Where did they come from?
So these little rocks here were on site when we built the facility. This one came from our gravel pit out on Packers Falls Road. And the little one over there came from the gravel pit at Packers Falls Road also. So these are original Durham stones back here. They came from the gravel pit, so things come and things go, so I can't vouch for it. But it looks like a Durham stone to me. So enough shenanigans.
All right.
Okay.
Anyone else? Well, then, thank you very much for coming. And we will have this wonderful sculpture and these rocks with the information on it to share with many people. Your neighbors, friends who come to Durham, because it is part of Durham history. Thank you very much.